Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Oar. I'm so glad you're here because today we're diving into something that can completely transform your English speaking. Now, this might sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful techniques you can use to speak more fluently, naturally, and confidently. Let me start with a story. A few years ago, I met a student named Amir. Amir was smart, motivated, and knew a lot of English words. But whenever he tried to speak, he always paused. He would start a sentence, then stop, then start again. Sometimes he'd translate from his native language in his head and mess up the word order or use weird expressions. It wasn't that he didn't know English. It was that he wasn't thinking in English. I asked him to try something different. I said, before you speak, imagine yourself thinking in English. Don't translate. Just think the way a native speaker would think. He looked at me confused, so I gave an example. If he wanted to say, I've been waiting for you for an hour. I told him to picture himself saying it in a real conversation, not translating word by word. Instead of thinking in his language first, he just imagined how he would naturally say it in English. The result was amazing. At first, he stumbled a little, but within a few minutes, his sentences started flowing more naturally. He wasn't thinking about grammar rules or translating words anymore. He was thinking in English, and his brain and mouth were finally working together. That's when he began to sound confident, clear, and fluent. Here's the thing. Most English learners make the same mistake. They think in their native language and then try to translate every word into English. That slows everything down. It creates hesitation, awkward pauses, and sometimes completely wrong sentences. When you think like a native speaker first, your words just flow. Your sentences come out naturally. You don't have to stop and check grammar in your head. Your brain already knows what sounds right. So, how do you train yourself to think like a native speaker? The first step is to immerse yourself in English mentally, not just by listening or reading. You need to start thinking in English. For example, when you wake up in the morning, try narrating your actions in English. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making breakfast. I need to check my phone. Don't translate. Just say it in English, in your mind or out loud. Your brain will start forming English thought patterns naturally. Another technique is to imagine conversations before they happen. Suppose you know you'll meet someone and talk about your weekend. Visualize the conversation in English. Picture yourself responding naturally, not perfectly. Think about the words a native speaker would use. You don't need fancy vocabulary, just simple, clear sentences. Your brain gets used to thinking in English in real life situations. I remember another student, Lena. She wanted to ask a colleague for help, but was nervous about making mistakes. I told her to practice mentally first. She imagined herself walking up to her colleague and saying, "Hey, could you help me with this project?" in a natural way. She didn't think about the grammar or translate from her language. When she actually asked her colleague, it was smooth and confident, just like she had imagined. That's the power of thinking in English first. One of the key things to remember is that native speakers don't translate in their heads. They don't think about grammar rules before forming a sentence. They think about meaning, intention, and tone. That's why they sound fluent, natural, and confident. Your goal is to train your brain to do the same. Focus on the idea you want to express, not the exact words or grammar at first. The words will follow naturally. Another great tip is to practice phrases instead of individual words. Native speakers often think in chunks, little phrases or expressions, rather than constructing sentences word by word. For instance, instead of thinking, I will go to the store, think, I'm going to the store. Your brain starts to store these chunks as ready-to-use patterns, which makes speaking faster and more natural. Listening actively is also important. When you hear native speakers, notice the way they form sentences, the phrases they repeat, the rhythm and intonation. Then try to imitate the thought process, not just the sounds. Think, how would I express this idea naturally? And then say it in your own words. This trains your mind to adopt a native speaker's way of thinking. Confidence plays a big role too. When you think in your native language first, doubt creeps in. Am I saying this right? Is my grammar correct? Will they understand me? But when you train yourself to think in English, those doubts fade. You focus on communication, not perfection. Mistakes happen, of course, but they become part of learning rather than obstacles. Let's do a quick exercise together. Think about something simple, like what you did yesterday. Now, instead of translating it, form the sentences directly in English in your mind. I woke up early. I had breakfast. I went for a walk. I watched a movie. Notice how your brain starts creating sentences naturally without stopping to analyze every word. That's exactly what thinking like a native speaker feels like. Over time, this approach becomes automatic. Your brain begins forming English sentences instantly. You stop pausing to translate or check grammar. Your mouth just speaks what your mind already knows. And that's the essence of fluency, when thinking and speaking happen almost simultaneously. So, the next time you practice English or enter a conversation, remind yourself, don't translate, don't overthink, don't hesitate. Picture yourself thinking in English first. Visualize the words, the phrases, the tone. Let your brain and mouth work together naturally. Start small with simple sentences and gradually move to more complex ideas. With consistent practice, your English will sound more fluent, natural, and confident every single day. And that's what I want you to take away from this episode. Thinking like a native speaker is not about perfection. It's about flow, clarity, and connection. When your brain adopts English thought patterns, your speaking transforms. You stop translating, stop hesitating, and start expressing yourself freely. Thank you so much for joining me on the English Hour today. Practice this technique. Think in English before you speak and notice how your fluency grows. Share this episode with a friend who's learning English too. And remember to subscribe for more lessons that help you speak naturally, confidently, and like a native speaker. Keep thinking in English, keep practicing, and your English will keep improving. One thought at a time.